All right, and we're now recording. Welcome anybody from the public who's watching us. We are live at a work session. We will anybody who needs to watch this, if you're having internet difficulties, you can watch it on the YouTube channel or on the usual public access LMC TV or on the Zoom link. Uh, So we have a fairly short agenda tonight, folks. On the applicant items, we're covering just completeness, anything that we have in that we need. So I guess let's take the short item first, because we've got 1025 Rushmore coming back. I think they've added some things pursuant to our prior requests, and we now know that they are within the 100-foot boundary line. Is that right? Okay. So have we communicated to the applicant yet? Has somebody communicated to them that that's going to require them to do the things we usually require for somebody building in a buffer? Do they know that now?
Yes, I believe Charlie sent that information to the applicant.
Terrific.
And they're
Okay.
aware that they'll need to proceed to obtain a wetlands permit for a new wetlands permit from the planning
Okay.
board in Harbor Coastal.
They're going to need but they're also going to need opinion evidence. They're
That's
going to need to
correct.
come back with a wetland scientist, which we've required consistently for some time now for anybody who's building within the buffer. We had asked them to consider some alternatives, and now that they have properly marked their maps, they know that they've got at least some construction in the buffer. They either it's always their option to change that, or it's their option to give us the evidentiary record we would need to get to a consistency vote on a project that includes building within the buffer, which obviously under certain circumstances where we find consistent. But that's going to take them time. Do they have they shown any signs of wanting to put this over to get that done, or do they think they can get the whole thing wrapped up in time for the meeting? I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to make them show up just to have them say, we understand what we're required to have, we'll have it next time. That would be.
They have indicated that they may want to lay over until the next meeting, but we haven't received confirmation from on that. So I can follow up with the applicant.
Sure. And it's fine with us. They have a requirement that they didn't know they had last time. Okay. They need time to get things done. Okay. So if they want to put that over, fine. If not, they should just understand that there are things that we know now that we're going to need. And they're not going to get to a vote if they can't satisfy the things that we usually ask of an applicant in their position.
Right. So it may be in their best interest to do so.
Okay. The other applicant item up is 1165 Grecian. Good evening, Ms. Motel. And I understand that we now have in a report from the consulting engineer. For anybody who doesn't remember where we were on that, the sense of the commission last time was that we needed somebody to respond to both the hydrological and to the private sewer aspects of the submissions, of the last set of submissions from the applicant. We talked to 3 consulting groups to do that and engaged Maser. We had a special meeting to ratify the selection of Maser as our consulting group. I have not had the chance to go on the agenda and look at it yet, but I understand that just tonight we have a letter report from them analyzing the project and those aspects that we asked them to look at. I don't know if anybody else has had the chance to look at it this evening yet.
Yeah, I read it beforehand. It's going to be worth reading again more closely, but I have had a chance to read it.
Okay. So, and I expect, I mean, I've glanced, but I haven't actually read it. I expect it will add a fair amount of information to the issues that we've drilled down on quite a bit. Um, is Other than that, and I mean, I know I'm asking the question sort of in the blind, but other than that, is there anything that we know that we need that we don't have right now for the next meeting?
Yeah, I have one or two kind of observations, I guess. One is a question. Do we expect to ask um, the engineer who signed that Mazer Consulting report is Andrew Hippolyte. Are we going to ask him to join our meeting?
That's a fair question. That's really a commissioner's question. If we all think that it would be useful for him to be on, we can see if he's available to do that.
I don't see the harm in it. I also do not think it's a wasteful use of their fees for doing so, because I think from my skimming of the letter, he in certain places has come to a different conclusion than the applicants experts. So I think a direct discussion is going to be the way to resolve it, I would think, rather than just potentially hearing two opinions without a discussion.
All right. I don't disagree with that. I'll contact him and I'll see if he's available to join us for the meeting.
And then my other right on top of mind question for that application is, those who have been on this commission have probably seen this pretty consistently from me, but I think we get these reports from Kellard Sessions and ultimately they close out all of their points themselves through the back and forth with the applicant. And I tend to keep track of those and make sure that that's resolved. I think that where that is at the moment is that we have a kind of response from the applicant's consultant to the last Kellard Sessions report, which has a number of open items. So, Esteban, I don't know if you know this or if this is something for us to decide whether we want to ask for, which is do we want a Kellard Sessions update to their last memo that confirms that things have been adequately addressed. Particularly, there's in the public record now some letters from residents that are raising some issues with the stormwater plan and so on. So I think it might be good form to try to get our consultant to close out there.
From the last commission meeting that we did have, I did review the remaining comments that were raised prior to me joining as the village consulting engineer. And I did feel that the remaining comments that were left that have been addressed. And then there was a couple of things. I did read the letter that was supplied by Stuart Teaker. And there were some things that weren't caught earlier from our memos. So I did contact the applicant's engineer and told him to kind of update some of the coordinate his plans together. That did make sense. And I did contact him prior to this meeting. And he is currently working on some of those updates that we did discuss.
Okay.
But we are, oh, sorry, but we at the next commission meeting, I will be able to provide another memo detailing the remaining comments that were left in our previous memo from back in September.
Great. Yeah, I think my preference would be to end up with a memo from your firm that probably that raises the new issues that were missed initially, and addresses whether they were addressed, and also closes all the other open items, just to have a clean,
Okay.
final memo.
So I can add any the remaining comments that were made between myself, and the applicant's engineer onto the memo. And
Yeah.
then once we do receive a updated plan addressing those additional comments that I made with him today, I can close them out once the plans are received to my office through Amber.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that format is great, where we have issues raised and then resolved all in one place. So, and I do think it makes sense to get, even if they're already resolved but weren't originally identified, I do think it makes sense to note them and then to respond to them, so that we have a record that addresses items that we got from Stuart Tiekert's email.
Okay.
And so if I remember Stuart's letter, it focuses on stormwater, and that tends to be his issue. Do I recall right that he's saying that that there's a requirement to deal with water quality in addition to volume, but the system doesn't do so?
So he's calling in his the storm, I guess the cistern or the rainwater harvesting catchment system. It's not a water quality measure, but if you look in the New York State DEC manual, rainwater harvesting is a water quality measure for that. So therefore, it does suffice the water quality aspect of the project for meeting the water quality requirement for the proposed development on the site.
Okay, I'll look forward to seeing what you write on that.
Okay. And then the final point that I had is my understanding, let me know if others have had a chance to review this and if they have thoughts, is that in the latest cover letter for this upcoming meeting, that the applicant has noted, and I don't have this open in front of me, I'm going to try to click it open, but that the applicant has noted that the process with the Westchester County Department of Health is ongoing and not resolved yet, which I think is potentially at least a question of whether the resolution of that would precede a consistency decision from us. And that ends my list. So I'll pause there and let you take it back and go where you want, Chairman Burt.
Well, unresolved permitting issues are usually a thing that we don't want to leave open. There have been a few chicken and egg issues where we literally have to find consistency for something to proceed. I don't think that's one of them. And on occasion we've been assured, going back at least to the beginning of my time on this commission, we've been assured from time to time that something will have clear sailing through another body, and then we've gotten back comment letters that have serious issues and require a change to the plans. And so we've the sort of conditional consistency where we'd say, assuming you don't have to change anything for this permit or that permit, we basically stopped doing that about 18 months ago. So that's a good concern to flag. If Westchester County hasn't closed it out, we don't have to pretend we know for sure that they won't require any changes. If that's an ongoing process, that's an open item. All right. Go ahead, Esteban.
Pardon, Chairman Burt. Are you referring to the approval for the septic system that is currently being proposed on site as being unresolved yet with the health department?
Yeah, that's how, at least if you're asking about the issue that I brought up, I think that the January 27th dated note from Cuddy and Feder just kind of gives a very helpful sort of summary of the history of the Westchester County Department of Health approval that's needed. And the last entry on it is as of January 21st. There's amended plans and comments submitted, but I don't see any resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we treat it a little differently, if a permitting process requires that we first find consistency, that creates a chicken egg problem where we have to take some action. But typically, if a process doesn't wait for us, we want their permitting processes to be done before we find consistency, because otherwise, it could change, and then then our consistency is meaningless because we haven't made a determination on the final plan. As we know, things can change. This application alone has changed pretty radically from the one that was originally brought before us. Okay, that's all I have on that one. Anybody else? Hearing none. Okay, so we have an administrative item, which is the progress on our LWRP. We unfortunately don't have Martin, but we've got Seamus.
Yeah, no update on that, but I have some things that I've been working on that what I'll probably do is try to get with Amber and Martin between now and our next meeting and get a few things posted like I discussed last month, where we just incrementally make some progress. I think what I anticipate wanting to maybe talk about in our meeting next week so that people can give some thought to it in advance is it may make sense at this point to kick Steve and his team off on doing some maps. I don't know if that's a budgetary item or, how to deal with kind of time and how that will go. But I think, identify some key maps from the LWRP and potentially talk about updating them. But I'll try to provide some materials and have a chat with Amber in the meantime so that we can look at things on our next call and maybe get them posted in advance.
Terrific. Thank you so much for moving the ball forward on this. It's a giant document with a long process. Just make sure I've got our agenda in front of us. Grecian, Orient Beach, LWRP, and approval of minutes we typically do at meetings. I will do my best to have these two back minutes read so we can, I'm usually the hold up there, so that we can vote to approve the minutes when we reach that on the agenda on Wednesday. And with that, I think we're through our items. These work sessions have become blessedly short as we've cleared a lot of the administrative backlog and gotten the hang of how to go over what we need for the applicant items in pretty short form. I like that. I think it's a good practice. Unless somebody really wants to cut these work sessions, I think we should probably keep them because I think they do us a lot of good. And we've learned to keep them short. Okay, then I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn the work session. I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we're done in record time. Thank you very much, folks.
You guys.
See you guys next
Good
week.
night, everyone. See you next
Bye
week.
all. Bye.
Bye-bye.